Hi everyone, 21st of May today, just giving you another update. Sorry it's taken a little while to get to this point. We appreciate this. There's been quite a lot going on, lots of pieces in motion, and the advice seems to be changing, as always, very frequently. So we've been trying to work our way through, and lots of conversation with people, putting risk assessments together, getting the right people around the decision making and making sure that's happening, and sorting things like staffing out as well. So lots of work going on behind the scenes this week, but I am sorry that I've not been able to give you an update between last week and this week. This is really just to kind of this video today is just to kind of address some of the questions and queries that have been coming in. Tomorrow we'll be in a position to release the final plan to you guys. We talked to you about staffing, and then we'll be putting together the groups as well. So working towards that potential of the 3rd of June as the first day back. So the first thing to say is, as always, we are just planning at this point in time. There's no pressure on any of you guys to make a decision to send your child in. If you are happy with them at home, that's absolutely fine. It's not an issue at all. Thank you, all of you guys, for responding to the Google form, letting us know who's coming in and who's not. We have closed it now, so we're assuming that anybody that didn't respond isn't intending to send their child into school. So we've now set those groups, and so we're working on that basis. As part of that Google form, we were looking at all the questions. You had an opportunity to ask a question or raise any concerns. Lots of those hopefully will be addressed by the risk assessment, but there are a few that I just wanted to kind of go through today. The first one that had caused probably the greatest amount of debate was around the part of the risk assessment which said that only one adult could bring the child into school, and that they couldn't bring any other children in. Just for clarity on that, the first bit is that it can be either of the parents or whoever is living within the household can bring that child in. It doesn't have to just be that one particular one, but only the number one can come in. So we can't have two parents coming onto site at once, for example. The other part around that was the difficulty about those families who have got multiple other children who aren't in the year groups that are in school yet. And that's been a really tricky one to resolve. It was one that we knew was going to be difficult for families, and the original decision was made, or the thought around that was that we want to reduce the number of people on site to start off with, and if you've got lots of children around you, that's really hard to keep that 2 metre distance, or stay in your 2 metre box, I guess. But the other element of that is that we know that particularly little children will run and touch and do all these other things, and that would have compromised the safety on the site too. We did have another look at that because, as I say, a few people had said, well, this is a barrier towards attending, and we don't want to put any barriers in place. At the moment, we still believe that that's the safest way forward. So we are going to remain of that opinion. We're going to keep it to just one adult and one child at this point in time. If things work well and if our systems work, then it may be that we will look at that again, and we may be able to relax it. But at this point in time, we're keeping that position. I am sorry that will cause some dissatisfaction for people, and some children may not be able to attend because of that. I can only apologise. And another one around that was somebody had asked about whether there would be a procedure for dropping 2 children into school. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If they're saying year 1 and year 6, you'll have a drop point that's designated for the year 1 child and one for the year 6. And as you work with around the one-way system, you'll just be able to drop them at that point in time. So hopefully that's clarified that. But I say I am sorry that the no other children on the school site decision is going to disadvantage some of you. I can only apologise for that. The other one was around phones and bringing phones to school. Again, the reason why we said not bringing phones into school was because for 2 reasons. Firstly, we're keeping all the resources that children bring in, certainly in upper school, on their set desk. So their lunchbox and their water bottle will be kept on their table. We're not sending book bags home or anything, because what we don't want is that cross-contamination. We want to keep that child's zone as kind of contained as possible. The thing with the phone, therefore, is that we couldn't have that on the child's desk because of the risk of it being damaged or lost or potentially being used. And it would have then meant that all of those phones would go into a box together in the classroom, and therefore there would have been cross-contamination there. So we are going to continue with that decision as well. We're going to say no phones in school. For those children who are walking to school in the morning. Again, we are really asking you guys, if at all possible, to make sure that if you can, that you supervise your child to school to make sure that they're observing social distancing. However, if they are coming in and they would normally bring a phone, then we'd just ask you just to call the school office once it's their expected wave time, and we can confirm that they've come in at that point. Okay. Another one was around uniform. Do you need to wear uniform? The answer is no. We understand that lots of your guys will have grown out of them, or they might only have one jumper or two jumpers for the week. What's most important is that they're coming clean clothes every day, and that whatever clothes they've worn in school are washed as they get home. That's the critical part for preventing the spread coming in. So we are going to be asking kids to make sure they're coming in fresh, clean clothes each day. So we know that that's not easy with a uniform. So no, there's no requirement for that, but just making sure that they're in fresh, clean clothes every day is really helpful. Another one was around, there was a concern around their child being the only one in the classroom. That won't be the case. We've got numbers anywhere between sort of 7 and 12, or maybe up to 15 in the classroom, so that won't be an issue at all. And then a couple of specific questions around children with education healthcare plans or additional medical needs. What we've done for those children is we've done individual risk assessments for every child. We'll be sharing those with parents. We'll be discussing that through so that we can see whether or not the risk is too great or not. So we'll be sharing those with individual parents before the return to school dates. So that's kind of the main questions, the clarifying questions in there. There's lots more detail in the risk assessment. There have been a few extra tweaks around that. So have a look at, and we'll put the latest version of that up on the website as of today. So that will be updated today. What we are now looking for also is a phased return. So for those kids that are already in, they've already said they're definitely starting on the 3rd of June, or from the 3rd of June. They're sorted. We've got staffing sorted for all of those. What we're going to do then is keep those groups as they are for the first sort of 2 or 3 weeks. That's the amount of time there. And then if people then make a decision at that point that they want their child to come back in, there'll be a set intake rather than the drip feed. I'll come in when at some point in between. We're not going to be able to do that because we don't have the staff on site to do it. So we'll have a first wave. We'll then have a wave 1 and a bit, I guess, where those other kids come in before there's the potential for those other classes coming into school. And again, just bearing in mind that all of this is dependent on the government's decision whether or not to actually open schools on the 1st of June anyway. There's a couple of other points I just needed to raise with you. We're aware that that some children are now not observing social distancing in the community as well as they perhaps might. We've had some children come up to the gates of school and speak through the gates to children in school that in groups that are not their family groups. We've seen them out on the green or walking down towards the park. I just need to be really clear about that, is that if you want a place for your child in school, then that cannot happen. So it's very clear in the risk assessment. The reason for that is that obviously if we're being really careful that they don't mix with lots of other peers, they're coming into a bubble in school. That's the way we're keeping them as safe as we can. That is completely undermined if they're going out and playing on the green or down the park, whatever, later on. So just to be clear, is if you want a place, you can't allow that to happen for your child. And if we are aware of that, then we'll have to remove the opportunity of a place in school. Unfortunately, that's about keeping everybody safe in school. So there's a decision to be made there for parents. The other element that's perhaps changed a little bit is that home learning will be, we said for those groups that are in, if you chosen to keep your child off, that there wouldn't be the same level of home learning. We're going to do, it won't be exactly the same, but we're going to do a more robust home learning offer for families. What that will mean though is that the reception 1 and 6 and nursery classes won't be in school at all on a Friday. We're going to be closing on a Friday for those groups of children. The reason for that is that our staff can then have the time to prepare those resources, to do the Zoom chats, and to get the planning done for the following week as well. Because of the way that we're working, lots of schools are operating a rota system, but because we want to try and get our kids in for as much time as possible, our staff are all working full time. So it means that we can't release them to do the home learning for those kids at home. And we don't want to disadvantage if you've made that decision or if you're shielding. So we are going to give the staff the opportunity to do that and to keep those guys who are at home, give them as fair an opportunity as those guys who are in school. So that's the situation there as well. So just to kind of make you guys aware that if you are if you have got children in nursery reception 1 and 6, that they won't be in school on a Friday at all to enable that to happen. But they can jump on the Zoom call, and they'll obviously be available to do the home learning extra if they want to. But we think that's the way of making it as fair as possible for everyone. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. Tomorrow we'll give you the big update with actually the proper return to school plans. We'll have all the details finalised that will have been approved by our governing board, and then the trust, which is the next step really. But yeah, so watch this space for another video tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have a firmer plan by then, and let's keep fingers crossed that we can go ahead with that plan. So give my best wishes to all of you guys. Stay safe, keep well, and hopefully, I'll speak to you tomorrow, and hopefully see you guys very, very soon. Thanks for listening. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.